Well, we have lots to cover. I'm late. Let's get into it. I'm Jake. I can't skate. And this is an Olympic hockey game day recap. This video will mostly be about today's semifinal for the women against Switzerland, but we will cover the Germany game briefly. In both cases, you can put it in the win column. Canada wins. First, 5-1 over Germany in the quarterfinals, and then 2-1 over Switzerland. In their two playoff games, the Canadian women's hockey team has looked far from convincing. Very briefly, we beat Team Germany 5-1. But here's the thing about the entire women's tournament for our team. It looks so hard. Every game looks so hard for this women's team. And that included the Germany game. It actually did not take long to score, unlike today. But like today, it took a very long time to get that game to a point where it felt like a comfortable win. It was 2-0 after 1 and 3-0 after 2. Sticks are clearly being gripped for this women's team because nothing the last two games, or really in the whole tournament, has felt smooth or fluid, and there's so much puck watching and hope passes and just careless decisions with the puck. And to finish off with the Germany game, because I don't want to talk about it too long, I was absolutely flummoxed that Marie-Philippe Poulin played in that game. And it was clear today, despite having 2 goals, that MPP is not 100%. It was clear in her post-game interviews. It's been clear in her play in the last 2 games. There was no reason to play Marie-Philippe Poulin hurt in the medal round. I don't know whether that was Troy Ryan's decision or whether Marie-Philippe pushed him to make it, but I would not have been playing her before the medal game. Now, given how today went, we may have needed her to simply get to the medal game. So I might be talking out my ass for all I know. But I wouldn't have played her against Germany as my primary point. Onward to today. Today felt, for big chunks of the game, better in a lot of ways. The team looked more connected. They looked like they were faster, despite having oodles and oodles of shots, because it's women's hockey and we're Canada. Andrea Branley in net for Switzerland, brilliant in this game. However, that first goal of the game comes off a point shot from Marie-Philippe Poulin on a pass from Sophie Jakes on a cycle play, and Canada goes up 1-0, and it's kind of a bouncy, ugly goal. It clearly hits a Swiss player, deflects, and bounces over Branley's pad. Poulin's second goal later in the period is much more traditional. Daryl Watts forechecks hard, takes the puck away from a Swiss player, rolls out of the corner, shoots first, off the pads Brantley, and Poulin deposits the rebound, and it's 2-0 Canada. And at this point, I thought the floodgates would open after Poulin's 20th goal at the Olympics. She's sitting alone by herself above Haley Wickenheiser. But the floodgates never really opened in this game. The same sorts of things that we've been seeing, the half-missed chances, the missed passes, the hope plays, kept being there, and Andrea Brantley kept being a significant presence in the Swiss net. This is a common factor in basically all upsets in international hockey, is the goalie having the game of their life. But I didn't think there was much to be worried about up 2-0 after 2, and even, to be honest, once it got closer, not necessarily because of anything Canada was doing special, but we were solid enough that the Swiss team had under 10 shots in this game. And I felt like Renee Desbiens could be there enough to where even if we only scored 2, we would still win the game. I thought we would score more. We probably were unlucky not to score more. But the Swiss goal made many people nervous. And it was a perfect example of what I'm saying. A bad pass behind the net, a bad decision with the puck, people getting caught watching the puck, and it turns into a low to high one-timer for Switzerland with an empty net, essentially, on a turnover behind our own goal, trying to break out of the zone with a pass off the back of the net. Forecheck pressure seems to be our Canadian team's absolute kryptonite this tournament, and it's usually one of our best weapons. I, so far, have been very critical of Blair Turnbull and Claire Thompson, among several others. As I said in the other video, I believe we may have held on to some of our older professional players too long and should have taken a longer look in the college ranks when building this team, and also looked at some younger, less established PWHL players if we could find them. And Poulin herself, while today was a historic day, hasn't been her usual game-changing self throughout the tournament. Today she was more or less, or at least the closest thing we had to one. Renata Fast, like, a good chunk of this core. You can even look at players like Natalie Spooner and Brianne Jenner and start thinking that it might be time to phase out most of this core and leave this team in the hands of the Daryl Wattses, the Sarah Filliers, the nurses. I haven't even thought Nurse has been that special this tournament necessarily, but I'm mainly saying it's time for a youth movement with this program, because even though I wasn't necessarily stressed that Switzerland was going to tie this game, and like with everybody else, we get their best possible game. this team seems a step slower than it needs to be to get where we want to go. There was a time, and part of this has to do with the women's game getting better, which is excellent, where we win that Germany game by double digits, or have double digits and win 10-1 sort of thing, much like we saw in the men's game, which will be talked about in another video. And we win the Switzerland game 5 or 6-0. There's no real stress. We can rest players for the game on Wednesday. But that never happened. Switzerland had a chance to pull their goalie. They didn't really get any kind of chances with their goalie pulled. They even took a penalty with the goalie pulled, effectively damaging whatever chances they had. But this program used to be in a state where Canada would almost never get into that situation. And it's inevitable the world's going to get better, and I think they have. Clearly, there's still a gap. Canada and the United States are clearly the two best teams, but the forecheck pressure and the intimidation factor, specifically from Canada, seems to be waning, in my opinion. Does any of this matter? Does analyzing this game matter in the slightest? For a post-mortem, yes. For a post-mortem, we have to take a long, hard look at this tournament and what it means for a women's program. But for the next 2 days, you managed to hang on and win this game. How you won the game doesn't matter. You're in the spot we all expected you to be in. Can you beat the United States, who has been the best team in the tournament, and it's not really that close, in one game to win the gold medal? Do you have something else left in the tank that we haven't seen yet? Because I think we need to see it or be comfortable with this being a silver medal and taking a long look at this program. Even if we win gold, how we pick this team needs to change. But for today, you got by. You did enough. Can you do enough again? Let me know what you thought of today's game or any of the medal games. And do all the YouTube things. Like, comment, share, and subscribe.